Why is this so important, ladies and gentlemen, to our sovereignty, that we get and stay prepared? Because the chaos that's going on, in my opinion, a lot of it has been orchestrated. And being prepared is really the only way that you will be able to use your no muscle. So when they tell you, take this or do that, you can say, no thank you, that's not for me. And before we start, ladies and gentlemen, let me just remind you all that OUPES is having an awesome sale on a couple of its legacy models, the 2400 and the 1800. I found out why the prices are so low, and what they're doing is they're selling off the rest of their inventory and not making them again. And if you use my coupon code, you will receive an additional 5% off your purchase at checkout. Simpure is also having a sale. If you didn't catch the video that I put up a couple of days ago reviewing the Simpure Q3, it's an awesome RO system that goes under your sink and has no tank. In addition to the sale price that they have now, you can use my code or their special code to save about 30% more off of the price that you see on the screen. Now let's get to our video. Create chaos upon a population that already depends on you, and who do you think they're going to call to fix that same chaos that their rules, regulations, and laws have created? Yes, the people are going to call on to government to fix a problem that they themselves created. Just like when we have this huge monetary / financial collapse that we will have in the future, people will call to government to fix that same problem that government created. Baltimore City implodes. Police force collapses. Only 3 officers patrol major district. Baltimore City Council passes budget with $22 million less or cut to the police force. What do you think is going to happen to crime, ladies and gentlemen? The radical leftists in control of Baltimore City Hall have plunged the metro area just north of Washington, D.C. into apocalyptic levels. Failed social justice reforms, defunding the police, and widespread mistrust of the police have resulted in a skeleton police force that will no longer be able to protect residents in some regions of the city. And towards the bottom it says, this catastrophic failure is a direct result of woke policies and extremely poor leadership from the mayor. And here's another city, ladies and gentlemen, that has forsaken its taxpayers. Reports find that Denver taxpayers are now footing skyrocketing costs to feed illegal immigrants. And just saying illegal immigrants, ladies and gentlemen, is probably going to get this video shadow banned. So I do appreciate your support. If you let the video run all the way through, it really helps with the algorithm. Give it a like, and if you let an ad or two run through to like 30 seconds or so, it helps with the algorithm as well, as far as YouTube pushing it out to other people to see. So thank you very much for that ahead of time. The way the migrant crisis is affecting Denver is getting worse. A new report has found that how much the city taxpayers are spending to feed illegal immigrants is skyrocketing. Listen to how much this is. It's not no pocket change. The Denver City Council recently agreed to amend the city's contract with Colorado Hospitality Services for the provision of meals for guests in migrant shelters across the city. And the amended contract, ladies and gentlemen, had an additional $450,000 added for the purchase of meals. Not for the residents, but for the people that enter this nation unlawfully. I'm sure you've all heard about the bridge in Baltimore that was rammed by a container ship. A black swan event, says General Flynn, who raises question about Baltimore bridge collapse. The main reason I bring this up, ladies and gentlemen, is because this is just the beginning. All right, think about all of the havoc that this is going to cause with shipping, with supplies, with things coming in and things going out. Who do you think is going to end up paying that on the bottom line? It's going to be the consumers. All right, and it's not just going to affect people from Baltimore. It's going to affect people in the entire nation, because a lot of things come in and out of that area. But this is just the beginning as far as our infrastructure failing or being attacked, if that was what happened in this case. The good news is, I believe that no one lost their lives during this. And if there was loss of life, it would have been very, very small. There is a couple of hero police officers that stopped the traffic from going through just in time, right before that barge or that tanker, whatever it is, hit the bridge. And we don't have to look to other countries, ladies and gentlemen, to see what the result of socialism or communism is. All we have to do is take a look at a few different states or cities across the nation and see if the practice of socialism/communism is working in their area. California's latest hustle, utility bills based on ratepayers' income. So what's going to happen when California runs out of rich people? Guess what? If you're still there, it is you that will be drained. So if you're supporting things like this now, they're coming after you next. Just give it a little bit of time. Most Americans believe that the U.S. will be in a world war within the next decade. Well, if you listen to Charles Nenner, ladies and gentlemen, who often interviews with Mr. Greg Hunter on Rumble, he says that the next world war, which will happen, it's just a matter of time. It's all a cycle, ladies and gentlemen. The next world war will see the most casualties ever recorded in human history, at least for this civilization, at about 2 billion or more. So when most people are saying that, yeah, we'll probably be into war within the next decade or so, it's probably going to be sooner than later. And that is why I often say that war brings nothing but sorrow, except for the bankers and politicians that get rich and are in their nice, lofty bunkers. Russia says that it is prepared to use nuclear weapons if threatened by the West. And this, ladies and gentlemen, I believe is one of their goals, is to put us on a centrally banked digital currency. And that would be the end of freedom. I'm glad that Mr. Kennedy agrees with me. And for those of you that don't know who Robert Kennedy is, he is running for president of the United States. I don't think he has enough traction to make a dent, but he could be a disruptor. But we'll see. And he says, I'm against CBDCs because that is part of the path to getting us where China is today. Social credit score, anyone? That's where they started, he says. That's where all these other countries started with CBDCs. And it's the end of freedom. We will be slaves if we allow that to happen. Mr. Kennedy said during a March 22nd event, he pointed to the Canadian trucker protests to explain why CBDCs were dangerous for freedom. The Canadian government portrayed the truckers as right-wing fascists and racists, and they were not, ladies and gentlemen. They were just regular, everyday people that wanted to be free. The government used facial recognition systems and other intrusive technologies to identify the participants, all of the truckers. They got their license plates, etc., and then they froze their bank accounts. So they couldn't get diesel for their trucks, they couldn't buy food for their kids, they couldn't pay for their education, they couldn't pay their mortgages. Do you think that this government, meaning the U.S., or whatever government you're under, would do the same thing to you? Especially if you had a CBDC as the main form of currency. And again, on Hypocrite Corner, ladies and gentlemen, as the government sends arms all over the world, for democracy that is, it's trying to take the arms of its own citizens. He's coming for your guns. Biden launches centralized red flag hub to target threatening firearms owners. To help law enforcement, prosecutors, judges, and other government leaders across America more easily implement their red flag gun laws, the Biden regime is creating a national center to coordinate the provision of training and technical assistance, using your tax dollars 100% against your freedoms. On March 23rd, the Department of Justice announced the creation of the National Extreme Risk Protection Order Resource Center, a centralized training and technical assistance hub to streamline the enforcement of controversial red flag laws, which aim to take guns away from Americans who pose a threat to themselves and others. If you're a law enforcement officer of any kind and you haven't read the Constitution, please read it. Please understand it. And if you are a Leo of any kind and you decide to go against the Constitution, in the end, Mr. or Mrs. Leo, it is you that will pay the price. Do what is right. Be on the right side of history, because good always prevails over bad. The question is, how many will have to lose their lives before good prevails? But good will prevail in the end. And as if inflation is not enough, Biden wants taxpayers to shoulder $6 billion worth of student loan debt for 78,000 public service workers. Mr. and Mrs. Public Service Worker, thank you very much for taking on a job that hopefully makes our society and communities better. However, it is not the responsibility of the taxpayer, whether they went to school or not, to pay for your education. You took on that burden of a student loan so that you can therefore facilitate a diploma of some kind that would hire you on for whatever job it is that you train for. Therefore, it is your responsibility to pay those funds. If you did not have the proper guidance before you took out those loans because your parents weren't there, or they just maybe didn't care, that is not the fault or the responsibility of your average worker. Let's say that you're a plumber. Let's say that you're a journeyman. You got out of high school. You went to work for a plumber. He or she showed you the ropes, taught you how to do your work. You got all the hours that you needed becoming a plumber, and now you're making six figures. Now you started your own company. You never went to college for one bit, right? But you got all the certifications, whatever it is that you need. I have no idea what it takes to become a plumber, right? Why is it your responsibility? Because you succeeded without going to college to therefore pay for someone's college who did not succeed enough after going to college to be able to pay off their own student loans. It's theft of the greatest kind. And this, ladies and gentlemen, just goes to show how low in the totem pole the United States is amongst the world when it comes to respect. So it goes, not just toward low CPI or neutral rates. Let me just go ahead and show you one quick part of this. As inflation is ravaging the income of your average American, all right, the United States is also being ravaged in the department of losing respect around the world. The Mexican president gave an interview to 60 Minutes. Before I even say that, have you seen these clips from like Saudi Arabia and other nations where they make fun of our president? I just saw one of those the other days. They're like literally getting on TV, on their national TV, and doing skits like Saturday Night Live and making fun directly of our current president. It's disgraceful. Well, here's another one. The Mexican president gave an interview to 60 Minutes in which he suggested the U.S. could solve. This is another president saying this is how we in the U.S. can solve our immigration problem. And it's by changing its immigration and foreign policy. And this is what he recommends. We should grant green cards to all Mexicans in America illegally. Only Mexicans, he says. And sending $20 billion every year to aid poor Latin American countries. Ending the embargo on Cuba and removing sanctions on Russia and all these other countries. I believe that we should remove sanctions on anyone. I don't think sanctions should ever be used. And this is why I don't think sanctions should ever be used. Because the people that it's supposed to hurt, it never does. Sanctions are put there in order to hurt government officials, but it hurts the people. The people are the ones that always pay the price for any sanctions levied on a nation. And the deal is this. Let's say nation A puts sanctions on nation B. It's so that in hopes that the people from nation B suffer enough that they have an uproar on their government, and then their government changes whatever policy nation A wanted them to change and therefore put on sanctions. I hope that makes sense, but that's how it works. And to finish it off, cocoa hyperinflation strikes before Easter. Prices surge to new record high. I've been talking about the high prices of cocoa here for a while, telling you, I don't know, several months ago that cocoa was going to go up in price a lot. And that's not the reason I'm showing you this. I just want to show you this chart right here. You see this chart? This is what cocoa's done. I think there's one down here that shows it better. Here you go. This one's clear. Cocoa has gone all the way up to over $10,000 per metric ton from the last high of $5,000 all the way back in the mid to late 70s. But the reason I want to show you this chart is because cocoa is a commodity, right? And this is what all commodities are going to look like in US dollar terms. When the balloon finally pops, this is what all commodities will look like in US dollar terms. So if you're not protecting yourself by being prepared in every way that you possibly can, then this is what you're going to have to see when you try to go to the store and buy a loaf of bread, because you didn't have the forethought to put away some flour, some yeast, and some salt, right? And a little bit of sugar, whatever it takes to make the bread the way you want it. You know what I mean? So get prepared, ladies and gentlemen. Exercise your no muscle when you need to if you're prepared. Right? And again, thank you very much for all of your support, especially if you are still here. Make sure you check out the video at the very least on the Simpure, on the RO system, because there is a giveaway involved in that video. Other than that, have a great day. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.